Okay, so me and Chris have just removed the wheels, got it all on axle stands, as you can see. And Chris is just going to now remove the caliper for me, and then we're going to remove the strut, and we'll strip all these bits and pieces on the table, and then have a go at producing the bag over coil on these new BCs and get these fit to the car. I wouldn't mind on the edges.
Then you want to paint it? Yeah, then you want to paint it.
Okay, so just for ease, we've decided to remove the disc and the backing plate whilst the strut is on the car. These are loose. The anti-roll centre bits at the lower part of the coilovers, they are removed. So hopefully removing these should allow the strut to be released. Right, okay, so what we need to do is, I've already loosened this, the dampening adjuster, that needs to come out. Loosen this nut here, like that. And this should come off, which it does. So we want to keep this, you need the camber plate. And remove this. So what I've had made, you see this bit here, which is what the camber plate sits on. You can either reuse this by pulling it out the bearing and cutting it down to the right length, or a company called Only Charge Dubs produces them. Different sizes, you have to spec which one you want, and that will sit directly onto the top of the bag. Now I've had 2.5mm spacers made for these to sit on, because I felt that when the camber plate was sitting on the airbag, it was just a little bit too close for my liking to the top. But that's personal preference. Remove the spring and the boot and the bump stop. One thing you need to do is, if there is a label like on most BCs like this, because this is where the bag will seal, you have to remove this label. So I'll do that now. Okay, so next what you've got to do is remove this locking collar, because we don't need that, because the bottom part of the bag is flat. So that comes off. This bit you keep. So what we next want to do, which we've already done, is on a measure from that lower seal, if you can just see those two seals, and measure the distance up to the top of the thread. And that distance is this distance just here. And what you want to do is lay that on the lower part of the thread, which is where the lower seal will sit. So if the bottom part of that bag sits roughly on that level, then you know that that bag is down all the way and is sealed correctly. And we will grease that to grease the seals. So we'll do that now. Okay, so this O-ring comes with the kit. You need to install that, which seals the top part of the bag once it's on. Bit of grease on that. We've put a little bit of grease just around here, and also slathered a little bit on the O-rings just to hope it helps it seal. And with that, you can then put the bag on and spin. Okay, that is as tight as it will go. It feels tight, but you've got to keep going and it will come to a complete stop. And once you've done that, this lock and collar can be locked up using the spanners, which will come with your BCs. These are brand new BCs, so it comes with everything. If not, you can find whatever works for you. So once that's done, we then need to fit these bits, the pillow ball, which slides on, the camber plate, which goes on like so, the nut, which we will do up. I'm going to use my compressor to do that up so it's nice and tight. And once that's on, you want to screw in your dampening adjuster, which will go in the top there. And that is 1 bag over coil. What I will do is set this height against my old coilover, just so I've got a rough start of where it was height-wise, because that, at the moment, looks incredibly tall. Just giving it a good clean before we all put it back on.
You need to put a nut in at the top, mate.
Yeah, I will do. Two nuts. Yeah, hang on, hold it there, mate. Okay, so that is the fronts fitted. So I've tightened up these locking collars and yeah, refitted all the brake lines and the calipers and discs. It all went really well. Being that they're brand new coilovers, everything obviously came on and off so smoothly. And I will put a little bit of grease just on these threads to keep them clean. But yeah, that's both sides done. I'm now moving on to the rear. So I've just removed these 2 caps here. And just cracked off these nuts for the dampers. So I'm going to remove the dampers, which should give me enough room to remove the springs. And whilst I'm under here, I will be cleaning up some of these bits and pieces. So I've got like the anti-roll bar and the 4-link setup. I did repaint a couple of years ago. I might take them off and repaint them. And the bump stop you can just see there, as far as I'm aware, is held on with a 12mm bolt. And they will need to be removed, and that is where the airbag will sit. And yeah, I'll replace the coilover adjustable shocks once they arrive. Okay, so I'm just going to take these locking nuts off. And these are held on with a 14mm spanner. I'm not sure if other shock absorbers will be the same. These are the TRD 7-way adjustable. And I would imagine that most of the fixings for the Ae86 parts are going to be the same. Okay, so you can see just here and there, I've just placed some axle stands just to support the weight of the axle, because once you remove the shock absorbers, the axle will drop slightly. So this is going to hold it roughly in place, and then I can adjust them needs be to give me enough room to remove the spring. Okay, so this is a 14mm bolt. That is just what holds the strut on the bottom. So I'll do the other side. This should go. There you go. That's the 2 rubbers. So now, once I've removed the shock off the axle, I'll give it a little tap with a rubber mallet. The axle should drop enough, hopefully, for me to remove the springs. And there you go, guys. One possibly leaking, yes. One leaking TRD adjustable shock. And the other one, this is the one that was causing me issues. So yeah, this one had a really bad leak. You could hear it almost hiss or squeal. I don't know what the right sort of word is, but you could hear it relieving some of the air where obviously the seal had failed, and you can quite clearly see how dirty it is. So unfortunately, as much as these are quite rare now, unfortunately I think they're dead. Okay, so there are the two springs. I did have to remove the exhaust rubbers, and that just allowed me to drop the exhaust low enough to drop the axle to give me enough room to remove them. So what I'll do now is I'll remove what's left of the bump stop. Right, so onto the rear bags. This is what has been sent. So you have this billet aluminium piece which is bolted in with these M10 bolts at the top with a little cutout so you can fit your air fitting. Now I had to supply and fit this air fitting, but you can choose whatever size or type of fitting that you want. So the kit does come with some fittings, but I think they're Imperial. I'm just going to run 6mm airline all the way through, so that is the size that I am running. Underneath, same again, a piece of billet aluminium machined with an M12 thread inside, and the reason for that is for this, so you get a spreader plate and the bolt itself. So this is just a mock-up at the moment, it's in place. So the bit with the air fitting is the top, which sits on like the bump stop mount. So I removed the bump stop, which is here, or what was left of it. So you remove that, and then the lower part, which is slightly smaller in diameter, just sits on the spring perch of the rear axle. And what I'm going to have to try and do is mark a centre point on this bit here, drill through for the 12mm bolt, and then you use this underneath just here. So you get the bolt and the plate underneath, and what that will do is hold the bag in place on the rear axle. And this is just sort of wedged on the bump stop. So yeah, what I'm going to do now is remove this, find the centre point, drill the hole, and I'll do obviously the same for the opposite side and get these fitted. So to mark the hole, I used the spreader plate and I centered it as best as possible, like so, and then just using a marker I just drew around the internal hole on a bit of masking tape, and that gave me pretty much a spot on centre for where I need to drill for the airbag. So I'll double check it with a vernier. I'll just make sure that the distance between that edge in the centre and that edge of the centre and the other way around is very, very similar. If it's within a millimetre or so, I'm not going to worry. But yeah, that's how I've managed to mark the centre point as best I can, and I'll replicate it that side. Right, so it's probably taken me about an hour to do it, but I drilled the hole out just oversized of 12mm. I had to cut the bolt down which is supplied, it's far too long. But the main issue I had was the distance between the tube and this plate. Trying to get the big metal plate in, you can't really see it there, but trying to get that plate in with the bolt into that little gap was extremely difficult, but it's in. So now I should be able to put the bag in and screw it into place. Okay, so that's in. Just managed to get the bolt underneath in there, just managed to get it to pinch. So now I'll do that up as tight as I can. Okay, so I just managed to get that bolt started. It was an absolute mission to get it in, but that's going to be rigid once that's done up tight. Okay, so about a month has gone by and I've finally received my custom airbags. So these have been custom made with a very naive drawing that I produced, and I'll put an image up here. And Isaac sent that off to Airmext, and they produced these airbags for me. And they match the size of the coil springs, which had been removed from the car. So I'm really hopeful that these are now going to be correct for the Ae86. Okay, so here they are. So if I put this one beside the coil spring, you can see that it's a lot more relative in size compared to the airbags which came with the kit. These were just far too high, and even aired out. By just replicating it with a jack, you can see that the arch gap was massive. So yeah, these were never going to work, unfortunately. With these, I've actually had these top caps which just bolt on in place, as you can see there. I had these machined down. I had 15mm removed. They were the same size as these ones here. So yeah, 15mm was removed, just so it sits on the car a little bit lower without having to remove any air from the airbag, or that's my way of thinking anyway, so fingers crossed that works. I also had this hole drilled and tapped, because this, just like these ones, don't come with the tapped hole, because this here is usually what would bolt onto the axle, and then this top bit here would just float on like where the bump stop mount is. But the diameter of this is smaller than that. It's weird, it's odd. I've been told that's the right way to do it, but anyway. So the bag would usually sit that way, and Airmext would be the correct way up. Now on this car, I have to flip the bag upside down. So this will be the top on the bump stop mount, and I won't need to worry about fixing it to the bump stop mount, because this size here, this internal diameter, is perfect snug fit for the bump stop mount, which is, if I can see it, just there. And then, as previously done with the hole drilled, we will get this part here, which, as I said, I've drilled and tapped a hole in the centre. Okay, so this is one that I've already been working on. I've just inserted a length of stud, which hopefully is the right length, and then I'll fit a nylon locking nut on top to secure it to the bottom of the car with these plates provided, these spreader plates. This bit of foam here is just a bit of sticky back foam, a couple of mil thick, that I cut out, just so it's not metal on metal, and gives a little bit of cushioning on the rear axle, on where it sits on the spring perch. So yeah, I'm going to go and test fit this now and see how it looks on the car. So there it is. The other side is also done. This looks a lot more promising than the other bags just there. So yeah, really chuffed. Just waiting on the shock absorbers, as mentioned. Get those bolted in, and this is all done, ready for the install. So I'm going to leave it here, I think. And on the next video, I will, yeah, probably start the boot install. So yeah, going to leave it there for now, guys. Thank you for watching, as always. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and a thumbs up on the video if you're enjoying the content. But yeah, it's taken a little bit of time, longer than I was originally anticipating. But all these parts are custom, and it's mainly down to me just wanting it right. But I'm happy so far. On the next video, I think I'll probably start the boot install, get the tank in, the compressor. I've already cut the board, ready to go in, and then fit all the lines. And fingers crossed, I get no leaks. But yeah, it's looking really promising. Thank you for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next video.